Let us pray. We give thanks to God for the rich heritage of this province that's found in our people. We pray that native-born Albertans and those who have come from other places may continue to work together to preserve and enlarge the precious heritage called Alberta.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills.
Member for Calgary Bow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce Bill Number 7, Change of Name Amendment Act 1990. The purpose of the amendment to the Change of Name Act is to remove discrimination on the grounds with respect to name change of gender and to authorize a change of name for children of annulled marriage.
The honourable member for Calgary Bow has moved first reading of Bill Number 7, Change of Name Amendment Act 1990. Those members in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill Number 7, Change of Name Amendment Act 1990, introduced by the Honourable Member Mrs. B. Lang, is now read a first time.
Deputy Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Bill Number 7, as introduced by the Honourable Member from Calgary Bow, be placed in the order paper under Government Bills and Orders.
Okay. Having heard the motion, those in favor please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Education.
Speaker, I have pleasure today to table with the Assembly copies of the annual report for year ended March 31, 1989 for the Premier's Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities. Members received copies of this report shortly after its release back in September.
Thank you. Minister of Career Development and Employment.
Mr. Speaker, it's my privilege to table 4 copies of the annual report for the Alberta Career Development and Employment for the fiscal year of 1988-1989.
Associate Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased today to table with the Assembly the annual report for Alberta Hail and Crop Insurance Corporation, covering the period ended March 31st, 1989, the annual report for the Alberta Agricultural Research Institute, covering the period ending March 31st, 1988, and the Farming for the Future Progress Report for the period ending March 31, 1988. These reports were previously distributed to all members.
Introduction of special guests.
The Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce to my colleagues today a very special group of people from Hawaii, from Honolulu, Hawaii, and also from California. These special guests are visiting not only Edmonton but parts of Alberta, and are also visiting the Chinese community of Edmonton with the thought of putting in place an exchange between the Chinese community of Honolulu and Edmonton. And I'd like to introduce them, Mr. Speaker, have them stand and then be recognized by the members of the legislature. First of all, I'd like to introduce Larry and Mimi Ching. Larry is the president of the Chinese Chamber of Commerce, Honolulu, and also the president of the Liberty Bank. Wendell Pang is the vice president of the Chinese Chamber of Commerce. And I'd like to introduce the others, and then I'll ask the members for their recognition. May Low is the 1989 Narcissus Queen for Honolulu, along with her mother, Helene. like to introduce Elsie Mackey from May Investments, Roger Hong, and Viola and Frank Ong as well. Viola is in the real estate business, and Frank is retired from the Defense Department as a chartered accountant, where he learned a lot of interesting items. But, Mr. Speaker, I'd like the Assembly to recognize them and welcome them to our legislature here in Alberta.
Member for Drumheller. Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to all members of the Assembly a visitor from the municipal district of Rocky View, a member of that council, Mrs. Jean Isley. I'd like her to stand and receive the traditional warm welcome of the Assembly. Member for Calgary Glenmore.
Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Legislative Assembly 31 women from the Women's Canadian Club of Calgary. And I would like the members of the Assembly to join me in welcoming this group of 31 women who are sitting in the members' gallery, if you'd rise, welcoming these people today.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Mr. Speaker, to the Deputy Premier. Mr. Speaker, yesterday again we saw an example of this bungling and mismanagement of the Old Man River Dam by this government, where some $250 million of taxpayers' money is at risk, Mr. Speaker. Now we see from the comments yesterday that they're arrogantly going to defy the law, Mr. Speaker. Typical. And yesterday the Minister of Public Works tried to convince us that he didn't have to stop construction of the Old Man River Dam, despite the Federal Court of Appeals' unanimous decision to quash the approval allowing construction in the first place. My question is to the Deputy Premier. Doesn't this government realize that this government no longer has a permit for construction of the Old Man River Dam?
That's right.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition should know, having had it explained to him yesterday, that the court has dealt with the federal government on this matter, that the government of Alberta intends to appeal the decision. In the meantime, the government is committed to assuring that the water needs of southern Alberta are met. And I can assure the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, members of this Assembly, as a member from southern Alberta, we are intensely interested in assuring that there is an adequate water supply for the people of the southern part of this province. That's what we're doing, and that's what it's all about.
Breaking the law.
Mr. Speaker, you should have got your act together 10 years ago then, Mr. Speaker.
That's right. Here.
Now, my question then to the Deputy Premier, who is a lawyer, Mr. Speaker, it says clearly in there that the construction, there is not a permit for construction.
Right.
And my question again to the Deputy Premier, how does he continue justifying construction when to do so shows contempt for the Federal Court of Appeals ruling?
The attitude of the government towards the federal court is a matter which will be explained in an appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada as soon as is possible to get that matter on. It is clearly the view of this government that the court was in error in its judgment, and that they have tried to apply retroactively rules which came into place after the commencement of the procedures for the construction of the Old Man Dam. And it's all very well and good for members from Edmonton with a secure water supply for this community, to have less concern for those of us in southern Alberta. But this government intends to do what it can to manage the water resources of this province to ensure that southern Alberta is not deprived of those water resources.
Heck, law and order.
The Deputy Premier knows more than the Federal Court of Appeal.
Yeah,
he said
right.
it today, Mr.
Yeah.
Speaker. Now, my question, Mr. Speaker, is this. When the same thing happened in Saskatchewan with the dam project in Saskatchewan, the Conservative government in that province halted the dam. They understood the law, Mr. Speaker, and the Deputy Premier at that time said in the legislature, and I quote, "The government believes in this project, but this government also believes in obeying the law," Mr. Speaker.
Right.
Why doesn't this government believe in obeying the law?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would suggest that the Leader of the official opposition in this Assembly was more concerned with scoring political points and more concerned with playing to different audiences than the people of southern Alberta should take a different approach to a matter as vital to the future of the southern part of Alberta as water. You cannot live without water. The communities of Medicine Hat through to the Rocky Mountains require management of water so that people can live, so that farms can thrive. And if the Leader of the Opposition wishes to continue on making these political points, fine. But the fact of the matter is we intend to proceed with the construction of the dam. We intend to appeal and to do everything possible to make sure that water resources are managed properly and that the people of southern Alberta are not deprived of water.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition. Second main
They
question.
can thump all they like, the lawbreakers
Right.
over there, Mr. Speaker.
Lawbreakers, that's right.
Now, Mr. Speaker, continuing with bungling and mismanagement, we'll turn over to the provincial treasurer, Mr. Speaker. Now, this treasurer likes to crow about the financial state and the financial health of the province, Mr. Speaker, but he also likes to hide the true financial status of this province.
Right.
Puts on his rose-colored glasses, and away he goes, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the treasurer went to great lengths to defend the reputation and integrity of the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, maybe he should start to listen to the Auditor General.
What an idea! What an idea!
And I want to, again, the Auditor General recommends the province should be including future pension obligation liabilities when it calculates the province's net financial worth. And that would change the province's finances, a consolidated net surplus from $5 billion to a deficit of $3.5 billion. Only $8.5 billion, Mr. Speaker. My question, would the Treasurer now admit that this more accurately reflects the true financial position of this province?
Speaker, I do appreciate an opportunity to express our appreciation for the work of the Auditor General. In fact, contrary to what all members of the opposition believe, we do work very closely with the Auditor General. And all ministers work, in fact, accept his recommendations. Now, the member from Glengarry tried to have the Auditor General ousted yesterday, and of course we objected to that clearly, Mr. Speaker. But we do say, though, that since there has been a reference to the Auditor General's report, let me indicate very clearly, Mr. Speaker, that the recommendations are important recommendations to us. They are not significant in the size of the government, and really the Auditor General did not find much wrong with the management systems that are in place. And as I've said repeatedly, there is no qualification of his opinion on the disclosures, Mr. Speaker. This is significant. For despite how much effort he may take to look across a variety of departments, a variety of agencies, when it is all over at the end of the day, there is no qualifications in his report with respect to the consolidated funds of this province. Now, what does that mean, Mr. Speaker? It means in his professional judgment, we have displayed appropriately the assets, liabilities of this province. Now, he has said that, Mr. Speaker, quite clearly, and to suggest differently is simply misleading the House. Now, what he has said with respect to pension plan, Mr. Speaker, is that, in his view, it may be more appropriate to display the pension fund liabilities in the actual face of the balance sheet. But there is, Mr. Speaker, no real reason to do that. There is no fundamental basis for it. The Institute of Chartered Accountants, who give dictums in this area, postulates if you like, have not come down with any particular position on the area. They're looking at it. There may well be a recommendation, but at this point, Mr. Speaker, the disclosure put forward by the province with respect to the pension fund liability satisfies the auditor in terms of disclosure, no qualifications, and satisfies contemporary disclosure of other provinces across Canada. To suggest otherwise, Mr. Speaker, is absolutely wrong.
Okay, supplementary.
I guess we only appreciate the Auditor General when he agrees with the Treasurer. I think that's a lie.
That's what it looks like.
Mr. Speaker, is it not the case, though, that $8.5 billion difference will have to be paid out by the province, and that reflects the true reality of the province's financial status?
Right.
My goodness, I thought he's going to have a little heart attack there on the issue. I know he's concerned about his own pension, and we have seen these people time and time again try to protect their pension plan. This is probably the only asset they'll have is once they retire from this assembly is... And I can appreciate their concern, Mr. Speaker, because they're not going to be here very long. Now, Mr. Speaker, let me make it very clear. We have, Mr. Speaker, provided clear disclosure of the liabilities. Now, we haven't hidden anything, Mr. Speaker. We have followed the way in which these assets and liabilities disclosed by other governments, the way we have disclosed in this government over the past years after years, certainly through the good years of the Conservative Party. Since 1971, we disclosed it in this fashion. And we have disclosed it in the balance sheet in a footnote. All the information is there. It's not hidden. There's no attempt to confuse the picture, but it is disclosed, Mr. Speaker, I repeat, in accordance with sound accounting principles, and the auditor has confirmed that.
The future footnote.
As usual, Deficit Dick evades the question, Mr. Speaker.
That's right.
Mr. Speaker, let's see where else they cook the books. Another big ticket item, Mr. Speaker. And again, the Auditor General has brought it out again, dealing with deemed assets, Mr. Speaker, which is almost $3 billion. We're not going to sell. May come as a shock to Treasurer Kananaskis Park. And as a result of that, Mr. Speaker, would the Treasurer admit, in fact, that we're over-exaggerating the Heritage Trust Fund by almost $3 billion?
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, it's good to see that, in fact, the member has read the auditor's report. Probably the first time in a decade he's taken the time to look at it, Mr. Speaker.
Understood it, but he's read it.
We have, from time to time, Mr. Speaker, in this House and through the debates on the Heritage Savings Trust Fund and Committee, my colleague from Cardston, the chairman of that committee, will attest to that. We have had this debate about whether or not the deemed assets of the Heritage Savings Trust Fund, those important assets which are so unique to this province, which means so much to many of these constituencies around here, and should not be belittled the way the member from Norwood has done, have been disclosed in a very specific way. Because we're very fortunate in this province, Mr. Speaker, to have that Heritage Fund. Now, I know that other parties would like to spend it, as would the member from Norwood, or disperse it in some other fashion with the member from Glengarry, but I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, we're the managers. We're going to keep it in place, and we're going to make it work.
Thank you. Thank you. Perhaps the Honourable Treasurer will continue to be a good manager and refer to members in the House as Edmonton, Norwood, and Edmonton, Glengarry. Member for Edmonton, Glengarry, please.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. My question is to the Minister of Municipal Affairs responsible for housing. First two questions. Housing groups, Mr. Speaker, in Toronto and British Columbia have concluded after assessment that rental rates in BC and in Toronto, and we can assume the same thing will happen in Alberta, will rise at about the level of $50 extra on the average for renters because of GST. The homeowners in Alberta have been treated generously, and I applaud the action that the Premier is going to take in reviewing the issue of renters. In 1983 and 1987, shelter rates for people receiving social allowance were drastically cut because the argument at that time was that there was plentiful housing, there was lots of rental accommodation. My question then to the Minister is this, that given that the government is reviewing, and you, sir, Minister, is reviewing this rental assistance program, will the Minister add in as a consideration the drastic effect that GST is going to have on renters in Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, to the honourable member from Edmonton Glengarry, I want to say this on behalf of the government, that we are definitely against the goods and service tax and the effects that it will have not only on home builders, homeowners, renters, and all of the citizens of Alberta. So we want to make that clear in this legislature at this time as to where we stand. Secondly, in working it into the formula, yes, we are in terms of that consideration. The matter is certainly one of concern that I have with regards to the construction industry. We know, and all of us know in this legislature, that rental accommodation is very tight at the present time, caused by the fact that we have a growing economy in the province of Alberta, that some 42,000 new jobs have been created in this province in 1989, that some 30,000 new
that's true.
People have been added to the labor force, and that's what's causing the difficulty. The answer to the Honourable Leader, Mr. Speaker, is yes. That's a major consideration in the formula in terms of expenditure and meeting that demand out in the housing industry.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder, because of the intense pressure that renters in Alberta are now facing, would the Minister commit to the fact that this matter needs immediate attention and that a program will be brought forward during this spring session to deal with Alberta renters?
Mr. Speaker, I know my honourable colleague, Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs, may wish to speak in terms of any kind of legislation related to the question. My job, Mr. Speaker, is to try and enhance the opportunity for rental accommodation in the province. I intend to pursue that. One of the programs that's been very successful up to this point in time is the Family First Home program that has put 18,000 people into their home for the first time. That's alleviated some of the pressure on rental accommodation. The other areas we hope to emphasize is in the area of senior citizens' homes and special needs homes across the province. And last year we've enhanced that area by some 1,400 units. We intend to work towards the same objective for the current fiscal year.
Is the Minister going to respond?
Supplementary. Final supplementary, thank you.
Mr. Speaker, inasmuch as shelter allowances have been reduced over 7 years, 1983 and 87, and inasmuch as they were reduced because of what was then believed to have been a glut of rental accommodations, now that's not the fact, will the Minister of Family and Social Services agree that these shelter rates for people on social assistance, some 150,000 Albertans, need to be changed immediately for their benefit?
Mr. Speaker, I would want to assure the honourable member that we're monitoring the situation very closely, that we recognize that more and more of our caseload are reaching the maximum allowable amount under our existing programs. The member knows only too well that this government is committed to introducing some new social reforms in this session, and I would want to assure him that we'll be making the appropriate adjustments to our rental allowances at that time.
Thank you. Member for Rocky Mountain House, followed by Edmonton Jasper Place.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in my constituency there is a very urgent need for extended care facilities. As a matter of fact, the 4 communities involved have proposed about 170 beds, and even though we haven't broken any ground, they're all spoken for. We know that the federal government has been cutting back ever since about 1982 on the transfer payments, and also in my constituency there are a number of citizens who are on social assistance, a number of families requiring the services of family and social services,
And now, on February the 20th, the Minister of Finance of Canada announced in his budget speech that the Government of Canada would be unilaterally cutting on the amount of monies being made available to Alberta under the Canada Assistance Plan Act and the associated agreements. To the Attorney General, does the government plan to take any action to protest the federal government's action?
Mr. Speaker, when the Federal Minister of Finance brought down his budget, our government responded that all governments must be cognizant of the need for fiscal restraint and to address deficits. We in Alberta recognize that we must, of course, do our part. However, we also want to ensure that the federal government knows that unilateral action against Alberta, or in the case of the budget against the three particular governments, is not willingly accepted. And British Columbia has initiated a reference to the British Columbia Court of Appeal, which addresses the Canada Assistance Program and its contractual relationship, and we have instructed our officials to join in with that action against the federal government.
But, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, what is the nature of the court action and when will it be heard?
Mr. Speaker, the court action is a reference, and it's being carried by the British Columbia government with the province of Alberta and the province of Ontario joining in the action. And there's two questions that have been put to the court to answer, and we expect that the proceedings will take place approximately the middle of May. We just want to ensure that through this action that Albertans can be comfortable that we will get what we think is owed to us through our contractual agreements with the federal government.
Edmonton Jasper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the 20th of July, 1988, the then Minister of the Environment, member for Barrhead, issued a news release with results of dioxin testing of sludge, effluent, and other materials at the Procter & Gamble mill site. It found extraordinarily high levels of dioxin and furan, especially in the sludge in the settling pond, 280 parts per trillion dioxin, 3,607 parts per trillion in furan. The minister acknowledged yesterday that hundreds of thousands of kilograms of this material have been allowed by Alberta Environment to be dumped into the Wapiti River in excess of the permitted level. I want to ask the minister today if this information about the toxic nature of the sludge was taken into account before the department decided to allow the dumping in the Wapiti River.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, the whole issue of dioxins and furans, chlorinated organics, only became an issue in 1985, and we only started to know something about them in 1988. As to the extent of a detailed investigation into the quantity of dioxins and furans, I really can't answer that question at this particular time, but I will undertake to find out how much investigation there was into dioxins and furans at that particular time, understanding not much research had been done anywhere, in fact, in the world. Now, Mr. Speaker, this whole issue of what happened in 1988 is of some concern to our government, but I think the point that needs to be made here is that we are getting better. We have told that mill at Procter & Gamble that they will have to refit to world standards before and give us an action plan before their license to operate is issued. All of these issues relative to chlorinated organics, dioxins, furans, and so on will be taken into account before the permit is issued. The point is, Mr. Speaker, we are getting better. We are addressing the whole issue of compliance and enforcement, Mr. Speaker. And if I can point out that a lot of things have happened in the past. A lot of things have happened in the past, and governments have acknowledged the mistakes in the past. If we didn't, we wouldn't be addressing the environmental concerns the way we are addressing those concerns today. Mr. Speaker, just one final point. I would like to point out and maybe take the members of the NDP party back to their respected leader, the Honorable Ed Broadbent. And one thinks back, and perhaps if he had been more concerned about the environment in his home riding of Oshawa, then we wouldn't have...
Thank you. Order, Honorable Minister. Thank you. Supplementary, Edmonton Jasper, please. Edmonton.
I understand what happened is one of the two sludge ponds has been sealed because it's contaminated with PCBs from another incident, and therefore Alberta Environment allowed Procter & Gamble to override the whole system and let the whole shoot and match go in the river. And I simply want to know if this minister will today acknowledge the link between those suspended solids and the dioxin and furan, if you'll acknowledge that those two things are connected and the department knew about it.
As I said, Mr. Speaker, we will investigate the situation, but I will point out again, now listen carefully, will you please, the honourable member from Jasper, for Jasper Place. We will investigate the situation. There was very, very little research being done in 1988 relative to dioxins and furans. I don't know at this particular time the extent to which those investigations were carried out, but I will find out if the honourable member would just be patient, Mr. Speaker.
Edmonton Calder, followed by Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are to the Minister of Family and Social Services. The Minister stated earlier in this Assembly today that he will be making some adjustments to social assistance. This government has been cutting shelter allowances by as much as 48% since 1982, so we're very pleased that he's finally going to make some announcement. I would ask the Minister, however, can he assure this Assembly that he will not simply take food allowance to increase shelter allowance, and in fact he will actually increase the money available for shelter?
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, again I pointed out that we are looking at some major social reform, and yes, we'll continue to address all of those needs, those essential needs, not only food and shelter, but clothing and medical and all the other things that we provide as well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's no commitment, though. People on assured income for the severely handicapped are also faced with rising rental costs, and many of them are paying more than 50% in rent. Will this minister make a commitment to increase the amount allocated to people on AISH so that they can get their basic needs met as well?
Hear, hear.
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, I'd want to assure the member that AISH is going to be a part of this reform, but I would want to remind the member again and point out that Alberta is one of 3 provinces in Canada, Mr. Speaker, that even have a program of this nature, that the province of British Columbia has one. They provide considerably less. The province of Ontario has one. They provide marginally more for singles. They provide less for couples. But I'd also want to point out, Mr. Speaker, that both the province of British Columbia and the province of Ontario are both means and asset tested. Here in Alberta at this time, Mr. Speaker, we are only means tested.
Edmonton Meadowlark, followed by Calgary Fish Creek.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Minister of the Environment said that Procter & Gamble was consciously allowed to exceed total suspended solids emission standards, but only at high river flow times. This presumably meant that the river's capacity to dilute these effluents was at some kind of maximum. Is the minister not aware, on the contrary, that during July and August of 1988, a period during which TSS, or total suspended solid standards, were exceeded 30 times, in fact, river flow was only 40% of long-term averages for July and August?
Well, Mr. Speaker, obviously the honourable member for Meadowlark doesn't pay attention when I'm answering a question addressed to me by the honourable member from Jasper Place. Had he been paying attention, he would have heard the answer.
Didn't answer.
Is the minister saying that he didn't say at that point the department allowed the operation to continue, but only at high river flow periods? On the contrary, is the minister not aware that in fact river flow during July and August of 1988, when there were 30 cases of going over TSS standards, that river flows during that period of time were only 20% of the flows achieved during peak runoff periods, other times of the year, spring?
Mr. Speaker, at this particular point, I am not aware, nor was I aware in 1988. As a matter of fact, I wasn't even aware of the location of the Wapiti River in 1988.
Thank you.
Honourable member for Cardston. Cardston, followed by Edmonton Kingsway, then by Calgary Buffalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Energy. It becomes obvious that the government is giving some consideration to following the recommendations of the Select Committee of the Alberta Heritage Saving Trust Fund Act to explore the advantages of disposing of its equity position in Syncrude. That being the case, could the Minister give us some idea as to how he might arrive at the equity that we have in Syncrude at this time, or for the sale of it?
Mr. Speaker, in 1975, the government made a decision at that time to participate in the Syncrude project based on an economic strategy, based on the fact that we thought in the early 90s at that time that there would be decline in conventional crude oil production. The decision was to proceed, and it was the right decision, Mr. Speaker. I should point out that Syncrude has delivered in excess of $1 billion in royalty to the province of Alberta. As a progressive conservative government, we believe, Mr. Speaker, that in that we met the economic objectives set out in 1975, it is now time to pull out of the private sector our participation in this project and allow it to proceed without government investment. As the honourable member indicated, his committee recommended that we do sell the asset. I should say that we will not sell this asset, our interest in Syncrude, unless we get a price that is satisfactory to the government, Mr. Speaker. In terms of the value of that asset, I do hesitate to put a price tag on it at this particular time. I prefer to see offers, Mr. Speaker, than to set a price that may be set a criteria for negotiations. So the final decision on the value will be determined by the government once we receive offers for our interest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, in that the Heritage Fund carried the investment of some $512 million in Syncrude, it would seem that the fund should reap any benefit. Could the Minister confirm that this would be the case and that it would not flow through to the General Revenue Fund or to Oslo or some other oil sands development? Perhaps the provincial treasurer may want to supplement that.
Mr. Speaker, at this particular time, the asset is held by the Heritage Fund, and the dollars would flow back to the Heritage Fund. The decision on what to do with those dollars thereafter would be something that we would be making as a policy of this government. I should say that with regard to flowing those dollars to Oslo, Mr. Speaker, we are not selling our interest in Syncrude to facilitate coming up with our share of our commitment to the Oslo project. That decision was made mutually exclusive to the decision to sell Syncrude. As was indicated yesterday by our Premier, Mr. Speaker, there is interest in further investment in Syncrude by the province of Ontario, as it was indicated. I'm fairly optimistic, Mr. Speaker. The government of Ontario held a 5% interest in the Syncrude project for some 3 years and continue to hold a fairly significant interest in the Suncor project. So the precedent is there. Any suggestion that the interest is not legitimate by the province of Ontario and Oslo certainly is not indicative of the precedent that they've set in supporting long-term energy supply-demand balance in this country.
Edmonton Kingsway, followed by Calgary Buffalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
2 months ago, in one of the financial fiascos for which this government is becoming famous, $31 million of taxpayers' money in all likelihood went down the drain when General Systems Research was put into receivership by this government. Because of the hard work of the receiver, Mr. Speaker, it's my understanding that GSR is on the verge of being sold to a consortium of 3 companies, only one of which is Canadian. To the self-proclaimed good money manager, would the Treasurer admit that Alberta taxpayers tend to lose every cent of the $31 million when GSR is made public, sold to a public company?
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Stewart, the minister responsible, is in Ottawa today attending to government business with respect to a variety of important issues. And as a result, I will have to take that rather curious question, which I haven't decoded yet, under advisement.
And this is the guy that understands our finances in Alberta. Over the past few years, this government has doled out the $31 million to GSR on an... I get two statements before my question. Could you...
No. Well, the rules are simple. The 4 corners of the boxing ring are there, 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 and there. And after that, it's up to yourselves. No, the difficulty is here, in this case, honorable members, please don't heckle the member till he at least gets his question out. Well, with due respect to the opposition members in the House, let's have a little trade-off here to let them backbenchers get their questions out too before we start in heckling my friend from the southern climes of West Loch Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Anyway, we'll try again. Over the past few years, the government has doled out this $31 million to GSR on an ad hoc basis, mostly to cover the operating losses, while the company was continually starved for cash to commercialize its technology and promote sales. In a report, Tusroth indicated that it would take a commitment of $26 million over 5 years to get this company off the ground. Now, to the House Leader, will this secretive government now commit itself to releasing the Tusroth report and the Technology Research and Telecommunications study on GSR so the Albertans can judge for themselves why this government cost them $31 million?
Most unusual question to address to a House Leader. I would take
Steady, Alex, steady.
My goodness. The question was addressed to me as House Leader, and it doesn't fall within my responsibilities. To answer that question, I will take the question as notice for the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications. Calgary, Buffalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the provincial treasurer, although the provincial treasurer and other government prestigitators have been telling us that the province's guarantee of gainers' liability was $55 million, we know from the latest public accounts that they're being economical with the truth. The guarantee was not for $55 million, it was for $55 million plus interest, resulting in a liability of almost $59 million at March 31st, 89, a year ago. I'm wondering whether the provincial treasurer will tell us whether the loan is still outstanding, the $55 million loan, and has full interest been accumulating to date.
Mr. Speaker, the member from Buffalo has been working on his thesaurus over the last 6 months, and I'm not too sure whether I should be offended by that word or not, but I'll check. The question was raised already, Mr. Speaker, with respect to the size of the accrued interest which attaches to any loan. Again, I won't bore members with simple accounting position on accrued accounting. The member from Vegreville finally came around and understands that if only the member from Calgary-Buffalo would spend the time on Hansard, he probably could understand it as well. I would only indicate that with respect to the question specifically, the loan it continues in the same form with our guarantee behind it. And of course, the interest accrues daily, because that's what happens in all these loans. When they're not paid on a daily basis, interest must accrue on a daily basis. And since payment takes place annually, therefore the accrued interest must increase between payment dates.
Well, I wonder whether the provincial treasurer that can then tell us why he didn't advise Albertans that if interest runs at 12%, the Alberta taxpayers will owe $66 million instead of the alleged $55 million by the end of this month, and will owe $83 million if we hang on for another 2 years, as he said is very possible with respect to gainers. Why didn't you tell taxpayers that instead of telling us we had a $55 million guarantee, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, I'm one who follows high-tech applications, but as I can assure the member, if I was to have updated information on every government guarantee on a day-to-day basis, I'd have to have a display screen here in front of me. It wasn't that we were misleading anybody, Mr. Speaker. These interest rates accrue on a day-to-day basis, and the guarantee was on the principal amount, and all communication obviously talks to the principal amount because it assumes the amount's going to be repaid, as we have assumed, and as has happened.
Calgary Glenmore, followed by Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In view of the many social issues and problems endured by young people these days, and the pressures that teachers have with regards to these students and social problems, it appears that the community schools want and can fill this gap. Community schools wish to supply an opportunity for all agencies such as police and social services, career and development and parenting, and they all come together to discuss these problems. And to the Minister of Education, it appears that the community schools have expressed some frustration with their role in coordinating these various programs and these various departments. And I wonder if the Minister of Education would help these students beyond the responsibility of education.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the question from the honourable member because she focuses on a part of our education system which is very important, and that is community schools and the ability of the school in a community to meet the not just the educational needs, but the social, the recreational needs, in some cases the health needs of the community. So I can assure the honourable member that the budget that the honourable provincial treasurer will bring down next week will continue to provide full funding for those community schools. But I also want to tell the members of the legislature that we're moving to the next generation of community schools in the case of high-needs schools. And we've targeted our dollars on schools in communities that have unique inner-city-like high needs to meet the needs of the kids who attend those schools. Kids who come from families with lower incomes, new Canadian families who may not have the English language skills. And I'm proud of this initiative that the two boards in Calgary and the two boards in Edmonton are taking on our behalf on a pilot basis to meet those unique needs of children in schools who come from families in inner-city-like neighborhoods.
Now, further to the Minister of Education, you did mention the special needs students. There are also the handicapped students and other special needs students who wish to integrate into the schools, and how do you plan on developing programs for them?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as honourable members are probably aware, in November at a speech before the Alberta School Trustees Association, I announced that the government would undertake a wholesale review of special needs education, special education for our kids. Because the concern had come to us that school boards were concerned that they were not able to fully meet the needs of children with special education needs. So in cooperation with my colleagues, the Minister of Health, the Ministers of Family and Social Services, as well as school trustees and teachers and other groups around the province, we are focusing our study on the funding and the cost of special education, on the coordination of services that are provided by provincial government departments and community agencies, as well as the outcome. What are we expecting to accomplish with special education? How best can we meet those needs? And in the end, how can we measure how well we met those children's needs? So, Mr. Speaker, as you can see, we are doing our best as a provincial government to meet the needs, the unique and special needs of these kids in our schools.
Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are to the Minister responsible for Native Affairs. Yesterday, the Minister informed us or indicated that his officials had not made him aware of the serious failure of the Métis Association of Alberta to comply with terms and conditions of funding agreements they have with the Department of Municipal Affairs. I hope he's, in the time that's elapsed, been able to determine whether those officials were either sloppy, lacking in diligence, confused, or simply intentional in not bringing these problems to his attention. Can the Minister now inform the Assembly this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, will his government take steps to recover all monies improperly spent by leaders of the Métis Association?
Mr. Speaker, it's with great pleasure that I stand and have the opportunity to answer the member for Calgary Mountain View. The sloppiness, the lack of diligence relates to the honourable member, not to the officials.
That's not surprising.
The honourable member would bring forward any evidence of any misspending by the Métis Association of Alberta. I would be delighted to sit down and discuss with them. There was a forecast of a shortfall for the Métis Association of Alberta of approximately $280,000, $230,000 of which was funds from the federal government which had not been received yet and therefore was not put into the forecast, as well as $100,000 that was coming from the framework agreement that we had recently signed with the Métis and had also not been put into it. I can assure the honourable member, to save him his second question, that the Métis Association has not spent any government funds on their newspaper.
Time for question period has expired. Might we have unanimous consent to complete this question, but also then to hear from the Minister of Health in response to a question as raised by the member for Edmonton Avonmore on a previous occasion. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Supplementary, Calgary Mountain View.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I can't understand how members of his own department didn't draw to his attention that the department's specific rejection of support of Native Network News and that the MAA has directed approximately $200,000 of its core support to Native Network News. As department officials have also indicated that the MAA was proposing to use money that they hadn't spent on the framework activities to cover its operating deficits. So I'm going to ask the Minister, in view of the close relationship that this government has with leaders of the Métis Association of Alberta, again, are they going to recover money that has not been properly spent, or are they simply going to leave it covered up or not deal with it properly in order to protect their friends from any political fallout?
Mr. Speaker, those are pretty serious allegations, and I would challenge the member to put forward any documentation other than innuendo he has through members of the Métis community who have a little problem with the Métis Association of Alberta. I challenge him to do that. There was no government money spent on those newspapers. The letter that he refers to was a letter drafted up through the department when they were dealing with the Métis Association for, as I just mentioned, the potential shortfall that they might have had in their budget. However, I also explained what wasn't taken into consideration, and there was funding. The Métis Association also put on an austerity program in early '89 for that contingency. Now, I am not disputing that they may have put some money into the newspaper. That is their problem. It was not government funds. I challenge the member to put up or butt out.
Chair would ask all honorable members to refer to Beauchesne 409 subsection 7. A question must adhere to the proprieties of the House in terms of inferences, imputing motives, or casting aspersions upon persons within the House or out of it. This is the second day in which this issue has been brought forward in this manner, and the chair would expect that the member of Calgary Mountain View will indeed be able to produce some form of documentation to the Attorney General. Minister of Health, followed by Edmonton Avonmore.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the honourable member for Edmonton Avonmore asked me a question with respect to a program with respect to wife batterers, and at the time I didn't realize that she was referring to the program that has been in existence at the Calgary General Hospital. Although I have not received any formal request for support for the program, I look forward to getting that. Since the program has been operating in the hospital for several years, I'm a bit puzzled by what I've read in the newspaper over why that hospital didn't identify the program within their overall funding priorities in their global budget request to the Department of Health. Nonetheless, I'm looking forward to receiving the proposal and will certainly review it in the fullest context of both the institutional and the community side before responding back.
Edmonton Avonmore, supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, in view of the fact that 1 in 10 men in a relationship with a woman batter that woman, I'm wondering if the Minister will also commit to ensuring funds in other areas of the province to programs for abusive men.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to look at, first of all, the complement between the community and the institutional side. But secondly, that our approach to mental health issues, particularly on the community side, has been to address the person as a result of whatever may have been the cause of their mental health difficulties. And certainly there are programs in place where we are dealing with the outcome of someone who's very much under distress because of an input of several things, like family violence, like sexual abuse, those kinds of issues. But certainly I will look at this program in that context when we review it and when I receive it.
Thank you. Order, please. Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services, are your guests still, at least partially, still in the House?
Mr. Speaker, half are in, half are standing, and part have gone.
Order, please. Order. Thank you. Thank you. Would the House give unanimous consent to change our procedure for a moment to allow the Minister to at least introduce a few of his students? Opposed? Carried. Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much to the members of the Legislative Assembly. We have with us today some 55 grade 10 students from Lawrence Jenkins Senior High School in Barhead who were accompanied by their two teachers, one Mr. Alan Shipton and Mr. Merlin Flock. And Mr. Speaker, I'd really appreciate my colleagues in the Assembly bidding them a cordial hello this afternoon as they visit our facility.
Mr. Flock, please. Well, speed them up, please. Honorable members, yesterday I deferred my comment with regard to a matter brought forward to the House by the member for Westlock Sturgeon. And this is now my statement in that regard. Honorable members, the authorities are absolutely clear that criticism of the Speaker's actions may not be raised in debate except upon a substantive motion on notice. Reference is made to Beauchesne citation 168, subsection 1, and to Erskine May at page 325, and it is necessary to note this for the record of this House. However, a statement as to the matters raised by the member for Westlock Sturgeon and the privileges of members that the Chair seeks to protect would appear to be in the interest of all members of the Assembly. It is the right of all members of this assembly to unfettered access to the House. In particular, elected members also have the right to be on the floor of the House and its lobbies. The general public and the media have access to this building as a matter of courtesy. They do not have the right, for example, to be on the floor of this chamber and its lobbies. Throughout the year and throughout this building, there is considerable opportunity for media coverage and interface with members. Over the past few years, the press gallery has grown substantially. It now numbers almost 50 or 55, depending on the day, including TV crews and equipment. The Alberta Press Gallery is at least the third largest in the country. The media situation with respect to offices and services are second to none in the country. 3 years ago, the old media room behind the Chamber Press Gallery was required for television and audio equipment for the better service of members and media within and without of this chamber. In its place, after the assorted debris, and I won't go into listing exactly what all was found within the press media area, but in its place, individual small offices have been provided for the media and provided free. A media conference room has long been provided on the first floor of this building. The press gallery has always been available inside the House and has a current seating capacity of 22. And when there is overflow, we make accommodation for that as well in terms of this House and making the proceedings of this House available to the public. In 1986, I personally directed the upgrading of the audio connections for media convenience in the gallery and also to their offices on the first floor. Last week, after consultation which has been ongoing with representatives of the Alberta Legislative Press Corps, last week, clean TV cable coverage at question period was provided to media offices on the ground floor free. Extra pages and extra staff have been hired to convey media messages to members within the lobbies or the House. And to the best of our knowledge, there has been no interruption in terms of conveying messages from the media to members in the House. Media access to all members is available throughout most of the building and the annex at most times of the day or the night. The Confederation Room can no longer physically accommodate the second largest provincial press gallery in Canada. And this was evidenced last summer when over $2,000 of damage was done in a scrum by some TV cameramen who stood on the tables in that room and who were asked to get off the tables once, refused and stayed on top of the tables. The real problem of member media interface occurs in the half hour after question period. The area outside the chamber main door is inadequate, unlike Saskatchewan or Manitoba, where they have ample floor space beyond the main doors of their chamber, which would help to accommodate the press scrum, which the chair agrees is there to be available to the members. In terms of our inadequate space outside those doors, this constitutes a problem in terms of not only access for the members in and out of the chamber, it presents a problem in terms of access for the media as well. It presents a problem in terms of safety with regard to the staircase of someone accidentally falling down there and injuring themselves quite severely. It provides a problem in terms of fire exit when all of that area is in a state of such congestion. And from the point of view, another consideration be taken into effect, the media corking of the bottle, if you will, at the top of the staircase is indeed a threat to the security of all honorable members. Rules were put in place after incidents on opening day and Friday. Various members complained to the chair that some of their guests were blocked and bumped by the media physically. One of our members was struck in the face, I assume inadvertently, by a television camera lens. And the media also, at the head of the staircase, blocked guests and members exiting the chamber. This is even more serious. The Lieutenant Governor was jostled and bumped off balance at the foot of the staircase by a media person on opening day. On Friday, various members of this House were impeded by the media as they left the chamber. No media person has been prevented from an interview. No media person has been prevented by an interview, and especially not by the Sergeant-at-Arms or by this chair. Rather, areas have been designated to ensure the safety of the members, media, and visitors. There is no prima facie case of privilege on the grounds raised by the member for Westlock Sturgeon. In the opinion of the chair, if anything, in the media scrum blockade after question period, the rights of all members to freely access the chamber and its environs are at question. Thank you, honorable members. Yesterday in the House, notice was given under Standing Order 40 by the member for Edmonton Highlands. And under Standing Order 40, Edmonton Highlands is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To refresh the memory of members of the Assembly, I will read the motion again. I did distribute copies yesterday, you will recall. My motion reads as follows. Be it resolved that this Assembly makes clear its desire to make this legislature as freely accessible to the public as possible and our willingness to facilitate public appreciation of our proceedings and work. To ensure such openness, the Assembly agrees to declare the third-floor hallway around the chamber open to the public through removal of all recently erected impediments to access and by redesignating the Confederation Room a combined MLA and media room for the purpose of allowing reporters access to members. I am requesting unanimous consent to deal with this motion today, Mr. Speaker, and I will make succinct arguments with respect to the urgency, that is, why it needs to be dealt with today. In the first instance, as you will see, Mr. Speaker, there are enough motions on the order paper to take us into the next calendar year at least. In the second place, Mr. Speaker, since the decision was made on February 14th, 1990, to remove the media right to conduct interviews in the room adjacent to this chamber called the Confederation Room, there has been anticipated and, in fact, difficulties for reporters to talk to members of this Assembly to discover the nature of debates that occurred herein. There has also been difficulty, Mr. Speaker, in speaking with our staff in the lounges that were, or lobbies that were designated for purposes of discussions with both media and staff. And I refer the members of the Assembly to Hansard of the Member Services Committee of February 14th, 1990, in which this matter was indeed clarified by pages 190 and 191. Indeed, it was the assumption of the committee that members of the media would have access to members of the Assembly, at the very least in the opposition lounge, and it was also understood, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honourable member. We're speaking to urgency. We're not debating the motion. Thank you. Urgency.
That's correct, Mr. Speaker. I'll just conclude what I was about to say, and with respect to being able to deal with staff and the public. The urgency is that if the matter is not clarified, the situation is going to get worse. Mr. Speaker referred just a moment ago to an incident that occurred last summer when a story that had been the focus of national attention for some 2 years finally broke in this Assembly. It was an extraordinary circumstance. I would like to argue that the urgency of this situation with respect to the importance of debating this issue and allowing all members of the Assembly to decide the right of access of reporters whose job and duty it is to report on our activities, our proceedings, and our work to the public is being impeded at the moment, and that because of that, none of us are able to communicate properly through the media and ultimately deal with our staff as well. For that reason, if the order that has passed holds with the interpretation that has currently been applied to it, we could be in this assembly for 3, 4, or 5 months under the current situation, which, on top of everything else, poses hazards to the public, members of the media, and members of the assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Understanding Order 30, is there unanimous consent given? All those in favor of going to proceeding with the motion as put forward by Edmonton Highlands? Opposed? Fails under Standing Order 40. Orders of the day.
Consideration of Her Honor the Lieutenant Governor's speech. Adjourned debate, Mr. Day.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's with real joy and anticipation I look forward to making comments on the speech from the throne today. It was